Welcome, one and all.
Welcome. Yep. Hey, it's morning for me, afternoon for you, and evening for you. Yep. So we're covering all the time zones of the show.
Into the introduction and get going with the show.
Yeah.
Let's do it this way. There we go. My name's Simon Lightfoot, Flutter Community Leader, CTO at Dev Angels London, and you can follow me on Twitter and other places at Dev Angels London. Scott, you're not on the slides.
Scott Stahl. I am. What?
You're not on the slides. I forgot.
I know. I've been abandoned. No, it's not. My name is Scott Stahl. I am also a Flutter Community Leader, organizer GDG Cleveland, and I try to write apps every once in a while. Randall.
Yeah, I'm Randall Schwartz. I'm a Dart and Flutter Google developer expert for about 7 years now. And what it means is I spend all day answering questions about Dart and Flutter, both for my clients and for all the socials like Discord and Stack Overflow and places like that. But for this show, I am the question magician, which means I am watching the live chat as it comes in on YouTube. And if you put Q: in front of a question, I will flag it and we'll get to it in the order that we see them for the most part. And so please do so.
And we'll just do quickly the do's and don'ts. Scott, do you want to do it?
Be nice, be respectful, be constructive. This is not Reddit. Don't post anything that's adult, rude, or otherwise offensive. Don't advertise or promote anything. We all know you need a job. Don't spam the same thing over and over again. This is one that we tend to see over and over again. People posting the same question again and again. Every time you post it, you go to the bottom of the line or the back of the queue. Harassment of any kind is not tolerated. Failing this, you will be blocked here and we'll pass your name around so that you get blocked everywhere else. And finally, have some fun. This is supposed to be fun.
We'll also we'll go through this briefly today as well. So if you want to post some code for us to look at, you need to go to gist.new. I'll take you to GitHub Gists. You have to log in, pop in a name, title description, enter the file name, any of the file name with .dart. As an extension, this gives us syntax highlighting. Pop your code in the box, and you create a public gist. And then at the very end, you'll see 0.6 there. You need to copy the hash from the URL. That's the hexadecimal notation at the end of the URL. Pop that in the chat. If you post any message with a link in, the whole message doesn't come through to us, not just the link, the whole message. So don't do that. Just copy the hash and pop that in there. We'll get that. All right. Back to our usual programming. How's everyone doing?
Yeah. I'm almost awake.
Hanging in there.
I'll tell you what I just saw before the show was, did you guys hear about a PR that's – it's a PR. I think it's a PR. No, it's just an issue, but I think it's got some stuff attached to it. And let me share it to you. It'd be easy, wouldn't it? Let's see if I can figure this out. On Fangled computers. There we go. No. There we go. Yeah, this one. It's a Webparagraph. Turth sent this over to me. New implementation of Flutter's text analysis system for web, paragraph builder, paragraph, etc. This new implementation advantage of the new browser API, namely enhanced text metrics. So for those that don't understand, laying out text like you see here on the browser is super duper difficult. People don't say it just looks simple. It is definitely not simple. There's so many edge cases and so many different glyphs and languages and everything else. It's really complicated. Anyway, the browser already contains a full text layout system, and because it's not exposed to web apps, we had to bundle a lot of these bits into Flutter into each Flutter web app, utilizing enhanced text metrics. We can achieve the following: reducing the code size, delete parts of the text layout system that don't need anymore. So HalfBuzz is the text layout engine that Flutter uses. Font management stuff, free type, brightly decoding needed for WAF2, etc. So basically, all the entire text layout engine system, which is everything to do with decoding fonts and working out how big they are and how we put them on the screen. That also reduces the overhead in runtime overhead as well, to be clear. Like, you don't have to run all this code because it's already in the browser. So there is, okay, let me just explain that. So you're still going to be running that same code, right? But you're using the ones built into the browser that's been optimized for this purpose, that is not done in JavaScript or WASM or any other sort of higher level language. So you're going to get the maximum sort of amount of benefits from doing that. So it's still going to be run, but you're going to get a certain amount of overhead that you don't have to do anymore. The browser for you. And then eliminate fallback fonts. So they'll just ship fonts with each app, and eliminate tofu box issues. And you also get Apple emoji because you're using the text rendering from the browser. So yeah, they've got a bunch of tickets here that all relate to this. So yeah, so subscribe. Yeah, so I'll pop this issue in if anyone's interested, pop this issue in the chat, and then you guys can click on that and go to that. But I thought that was a really interesting topic.
Shall we bring on an extra guest here?
Yes.
Do we have an extra guest?
Yes.
You're not paying attention. There we go.
Hey, no, Randall invited me. Hi, I'm here. Surprise. How you guys doing? Oh my gosh. So I have to ask straight up, looking at this as a vegan, I would like more information on what the tofu box issue is.
So when a font glyph can't be rendered, it is replaced with a square box with an X through it, which is called tofu, because it looks like a square block of tofu.
Got it. Okay.
Amazing.
Okay. Yeah.
So the tofu issue is basically just when you get the default can't display glyph character popping up.
Yeah, okay. Yep. I've seen that. I know what you're talking about. I just was like, I have a multitude of recipes. If we're concerned about, seasoning, if we firmness, like you always want to press it first, I have a significant amount of soy in my diet. So
we were just thinking about, like, it's quite a light show today. So get your questions in pronto, and I think we can start on some coding and maybe just like see what comes up from the questions as we go. We have something already. We have one.
Yeah,
already.
Free's got a question.
Yes.
Scott can do that. There we go.
How would you lay out a column of dynamic widgets in the space between way, but with a minimum space between, and make it scrollable when it doesn't fit the screen? Trying to understand the question.
With great difficulty. No, actually,
Custom painter. Boxy can solve everything. Boxy always solves everything.
How would you lay out a column of dynamic widgets? Okay, so basically, don't know what they are. Cool. In a space between way column. So you're doing this vertically. You're trying to do a vertical layout, right? Okay. And you want space between those vertical items in a way that the minimum space but with a minimum space between, and make it scrollable when it doesn't fit the screen. You can do that with the standard widgets. The way you do it with standard widgets is a layout builder followed by a single child scroll view followed by a column, and then you would lay out each of your items that you want to expand to be like space between to be expanded, right? And then the minimum space between, you use a size box. So now you've kind of got this expand size box, or something like that. And then inside those expanded, you would then do a center widget with your actual children, right? So that would like center with you would end up with the result would be minimum space between because of the size box.
Yeah.
The centers ensure that the equally expanded items are done essentially space between because of the centering. You could do like an alignment on. It depends on if you want like an equal alignment or whatever. And then, or you could, another way of doing this is possibly using the column spacing parameter, and then doing space between on the column alignment. The problem here is about the minimum height. So it only scrolls when it doesn't fit the screen. The way you do that is you wrap your contents, your column, with a box constraint box, and you use the min height from the layout builder that's outside of the scroll box. But this is what really annoys me. Like all of that there all that structure you just had to do is like a pattern that's quite common. Like this kind of is quite common behavior, and I think that this is when it kind of goes into like single child scroll view should have, you know, have a parameter which is just, you know, meet the minimum size and only make scrollable when the content intrinsically is like taller, for example, and like that should just be like a built-in thing, so you shouldn't have to use layout builder. Problem is we just don't have that. Definitely would like to see that. Maybe we could have a play around with that. Happy to do an example of this. Yeah, it's quite common. Yeah. It's quite common for a lot of screens. What does annoy me as well is that I actually saw this the other day. It's quite common for this to be a problem where if every piece of content that you display in a mobile app should scroll if it cannot fit on the screen. Full stop. Right? You always need to be able to get to the content. There's no way that you want the content to go off the bottom of the screen and you can't get to it. Right? This is like a UX nightmare, right? And this actually happened to my mum the other day. She was using a banking app and she was like, I can't set up a new payee. She's got a font larger. And the font being larger pushed the button that's at the bottom of the screen off the bottom of the screen. And there was no continuation button to add the content, whatever it is. And it's just simple issue. And I was like, I couldn't work out. This is just ridiculous. And then I changed the font size down. I was like, there it is. And it was just like one of those things of this is just really, really bad, coding. And there's like a de facto standard thing that you need to look at, which is what happens, especially on Android, when you have devices of different screen sizes, what happens when that content doesn't fit on the screen. Same happens in web browsers as well, web browser desktop apps, where if you can resize them, what happens when the content doesn't fit on the screen. I did a widget not too long ago for a web app. Actually, I say not too long ago. It was like for a web app, which basically it was a render object, which basically said, okay, if the content have like a minimum size, and if the content if you want to be made smaller, render the content as if it's at maximum, but then add scrolling to it. So the idea was you would have like your width of your website when it gets a web app, when it gets to a certain point, you can still make the window smaller, but the actual layout doesn't change and you can scroll it instead, which is kind of what you expect, the de facto standard behavior. But Flutter doesn't do that. Flutter just resizes infinitely until you get overflow errors, right?
One of my horror scenarios when I'm dealing with a website and sometimes a mobile app is if there's like a nested nested drop-down menus, so you have to navigate to the next one and carefully don't go outside by a little bit because it gets rid of the menu. And you got to start all over again back to where you started. And carefully, and then carefully over. Boom.
That's so annoying, right? When you have a pop-up menus and you move the mouse down, and because you went over like a 3-pixel area that's like transparent or something, the menu disappeared. You're like, what the?
Right.
And you had to like go over where it overlaps and just kind of navigate your mouse around to stay on the menu. Yeah. I'm like, what?
It's like it's a skill test to be able to get to that menu item.
What's that skill thing? Have the fairground where they have like the
yes, that's exactly what I was thinking about. It's like the amusement park thing where it's like the metal thing. You have to get it up and down and around, and if you get to the end, you get a prize. I'm terrible at that, by the way. I drink too much caffeine.
And in this case, the prize is you get to use the product.
Yes. It's like worst prize ever. You get to use the product that you probably paid to actually use. Yes. It's funny because the first time I ever worked with a QA team, it was a humbling experience because the first thing they did is they went into the accessibility settings on the device, cranked the font size all the way up, and then opened the app. And I'm like, oh. But it was important. Like it was a learning experience. I'm better because of it.
I say this with meaning to so many people. A lot of the time, people put fixed size boxes in with heights. Instead, now here's the problem: they set that height and then they put a center with the text, right? Yeah. And what you've just done is the de facto worst thing you can do, which now the text size changes and then it will clip outside the box if it's too large, right? What you actually need to do is the reverse of this. You need to intrinsically hide its size. So you put the text, then you put padding, and then you put your card or your box around it. The idea being then, if the text gets larger, the box gets larger with it. Otherwise, what happens is, as I said, you get clipping or you get overflow, or you get other things. So pretty much, you never really want. There's not many occasions that you actually want to set a fixed size box or height or width or height on anything. There's things like icons, of course. Yeah, I'm setting the size of that. You don't really want it to scale with the font size. That's of course fixed size, right? But anything that contains text should not have a fixed width or height. You can have a minimum, but not anything else.
Forgive God just left a comment in the chat. Be lucky I wasn't your QA person. I like to tap all the call to action / buttons at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, they did that too. That was exciting.
So when I sorry, just remind me. When I was in the BBC News app, the QA engineer came up. We came up with this thing. We called it the dog paw maneuver, which was on a tablet. We were testing tablet, and he would just do this. We called it the dog paw maneuver. But what's really great is because it was literally that, you'd be tapping on multiple things on the screen at the same time over and over again. And you get those like async problems with like CTA buttons, like two running at the same time and just causing weird behaviors and crashes.
You know what? Yeah. I'm going to start using that as a verb. Like when I'm talking to coworkers, I'm going to be like, will this survive if QA dog paws it? Like, because if they do,
that's great.
Because if it won't, we should probably consider a different approach. That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
But that is like, well, that's another thing that's very common. Like you're on a screen, you're on a form, you hit the submit button, and no one disables the submit button. But people keep tapping it. Why am I not submitting? Because it's on bad network conditions. And now you get 5 of their same API calls repeatedly on one after another, right? Like there's certain things that you do in an app, like having like it's something that most apps don't do, which is, and I think it's even more. I don't think there's anything actually built into any of the Flutter libraries that actually does this. Now I mention it, and that is to have a track of what's in flight API requests. If you've already got the same one in flight, don't create another one. Or if you've got, if the user logs out, cancel the in-flight requests, all that kind of stuff. Like the management around transactions that are taking place with the server. Most apps just they don't even bother with any of that, right? So you end up with that. You can end up with things like, I'll tell you what I've seen before. These are bugs I've seen in apps where the user logs out and they log into a different account. And then API transactions that are queued up on the previous account now apply to the new account once they've logged in.
Eek.
I mean, it's just crazy. That's just like that. Absolutely, like
I have a real world example of this. We have a pizza chain in the States called Marco's Pizza, and I was trying to order pizzas for my friends and I. And it was 2 extra large pizzas, and like literally like the app glitched out for a second, and I thought that the transaction failed. So I hit back, I hit the submit button. Long story short, by the time we were done, we had 6 pizzas, and it was because of the exact issues that you're talking about here. 3 different delivery guys too. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Payments is one of those things where it's even more critical that every bit of tech, like you deal with people's money, you cannot be like so there's normally a thing that you do when you create an order that you normally give it a unique value, not necessarily like an order ID, but unique value that goes along with it. So what happens when the server receives those orders, it can see, oh, you're trying to process another order with the same like ID, and therefore, oh, it's a duplicate. Right, like it's pretty straightforward stuff to like, deal with, but you when you start the checkout process, you're basically giving like an ID for that checkout like session, and that way you can be guaranteed you're not getting duplicate requests basically.
We generate a GUID to prevent that from happening, and
same. That's right, unique ID. But
one of the things that one of the nice things about using a package like RiverPod is that if you have asynchronous requests, it only builds once. And so there can be numerous things now watching a provider, but it's only in process of build at one time. So it basically deduplicates that. So it's nice.
Randall, I feel like you and I are like the RiverPod tag team of like, everyone should be using RiverPod. How can we work this into the conversation?
Yeah.
But
Well, I spent way too much time staring at every line of source code of Riverbod. That's probably part of it. So it's very clear in my mind that Remy did a great job in writing the tests, so that the tests were good enough for me to understand what he actually meant in the documentation. That occasionally it was an enlightenment.
Here's the question: do you feed back on the documentation and send him like updates? Because
he's always looking for pull requests on docs. I just I don't want to spend my time doing that. I've got other things to do.
I'll be honest with you. Like what I normally do, I don't look at the RiverPod docs. I go to Andrea's. Andrea's documentation on RiverPod is better than the actual RiverPod documentation. So I just hit up Andrea.
Really?
Yeah.
And where's this on his Code with Andrea's site or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to do it for 3.0, but he has like a definitive guide to RiverPod 2.0. And
perfect.
That is the one that I typically go to and dig into.
Let's see if I have that tagged here. I bet I do. Yeah, there's my hotkey for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've often thought that Andrea should just be the official RiverPod docs and call it a day. It's so much better.
So this is the
so
one,
much better.
Flutter RiverPod 2.0, the ultimate guide. Is that the one?
Yep, that's it.
Yep.
Cool. I posted that in the link in the chat. Wow, that's long. Wow,
It is
a lot of information.
It's not I would say it's not a go read it on the toilet document, but I've met some people that probably could. It is 100% a reference document. You're going to be searching for what you want in that and then referring to it. It's not, a afternoon read, but it's so good.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. We have a question, sort of a callback.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So, did you ever complete that infinite canvas episode to only render the visible items? No, we didn't finish that, did we?
No, but we can.
Okay. That's an idea for the live coding, I guess. Yep.
Since we're kind of at a lull of questions and we haven't jumped into live coding yet, I'll talk about the next thing that I'm working on.
Cool.
I may have gotten scammed on eBay, boys. I don't know, but I am trying to create the world's first mind-controlled Flutter app. So
okay, Elon.
Yeah, right. No, okay. So I found I've been looking for at these headsets that read brainwave activity, and most of them are over $100. Well, there was a children's toy made by Mattel in 2010 called the MindFlex. And this thing literally, you would strap it to your head and then it would measure your brain activity, and then you would control a fan, and the harder you thought, the faster the fan would go. And there was a little ball on top of the fan, so that controlled how high or low that the ball went. right. So I was looking at this. Maybe, I'll make the world's first magic bean controlled Flutter app. Okay, so essentially what I found out through a YouTube tutorial is that you can crack open the headset with this thing, and the chip has a TX out, so you can actually read the serial output of what this thing is producing and get the readings that this brain scanner is getting. So I ordered one off of eBay. I paid $50 for it. I'm going to hook an Arduino in, and if it works,
they just check the resistance. The skin
galvanometer.
Huh? Galvanometer.
Galvanometer, yeah. I think it's
yeah. Basically just checking and once you do that, they then just have a sine wave, and then they adjust the sine wave based on those resistances, so that you get a frequency change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not. It has no resolution. It's just like higher or lower. That's all you're getting out of it. So yeah, it is definitely a resistance thing. So the goal then is to take that output and put it into a Flutter app. And I don't know if I'm just going to make it like a Flappy Bird clone that is brain controlled. I don't know if it's going to be like a meditation app, but like my goal is. Yeah.
Up.
I'm just picturing like trying to, because I'm picturing like trying to take this thing to FlutterCon and like having people like really trying to think really hard to get this bird.
Yeah.
Looks like
So the bird goes up and then starts falling if you don't keep flapping.
If you don't keep thinking, yeah.
So, I mean, I just looked at the Seed Studio. You can get these things from a bunch of the places where you can. This is what I was looking at. Hang on, this is what I've seen before. I did this. I was a long time ago. I would play around with this kind of stuff. GSR sensor. Let's see if this comes through. Here you go. That kind of stuff.
Oh, because the only other option that I found was $26 on AliExpress and had a
This
single
is like
one-star review.
This is like £7 on the Seed Studio.
Oh, jeez, I got scammed, guys.
This is what you're looking for. So a GSR sensor, right? There you go. Strong emotion can cause stimulations in your sympathetic nervous system, resulting in sweat being secreted by the sweat glands. GSR allows you to spot some strong emotions by simply attaching 2 electrodes to the fingers in one hand. You can also do it at another place, on the head as well, on the forehead and stuff like that. That's what they actually do with those things, right? They're checking the galvanic skin response.
So for Flutter devs, to make the bird go up, you think about render flex overflows, and to make the bird go down, you think about hot reload. That's the solution here.
There you go. That would be cool.
Wow.
You'll have to come back on the show when you get it done and show it off.
Yeah, it's supposed to be coming tomorrow, so I'm.
Fingers crossed.
So it looks like we got a guest for next week.
Really. There we go.
You've got Matthew. You've got a 3D printer, right?
Oh yeah.
Yes, you could just like do your own thing, like.
Yeah. I did not realize. That I could have paid £7 is probably about $10-12. I don't know what the conversion is, but I could have not.
Have a Google on that one and see what you can find.
Gotcha.
Come up with something nice. Right. I'm going to see if I can run this thing. And then we were doing this on Windows, I think, before. Are we going any other questions coming in?
Yeah. Scott. Questions?
All right.
You want to run in that? There we go.
This one's pretty vague. I set app icons from Android new image asset, but from today, no icon is generated.
There is
a lot of things.
Yeah, isn't there a package on Pub that you can
icons are not generated automatically for you. Just be clear. That's not how it works. No, just for this person, right? I'm not. And yes, Flutter launcher icons.
Something like that, yeah. I remember I use it once at the beginning of every project, and then I forget about it because I don't need it anymore. But it's like a package where you feed it in whatever your icon is, and it automatically just handles the generation of all the icon stuff for you.
Automagically,
yes.
It's the beans.
Yes, it is the beads. It is the beads. Yeah, Sky, I have a unlimited magic bean card. If I can find it, I'll hold it up and show it to everyone, and then I'll flip it over and show the back of it.
Okay. Yeah.
Long enough for us to get the barcode off the card. Yep. Yeah. Cool.
Oh boy,
so to answer the person's question, you need to generate the icons. The file name of the is very key that the default name of the icon matches that you the same one that you have in your assets. Just generating a new one doesn't mean it uses it. You have to go look at your Android manifest.xml file and see what icon is set on the application tag. You can also override the icon on per activity as well, but that tells you what resource, and you go look at the resource, and the resource names have to match. This is just an Android thing. and then you would have to do the same thing on iOS. So what you're dealing with now is not a Flutter issue; it's one for each platform. And this is sadly what you would have to deal with if you're doing an app on each platform. You now have application-specific things that you need to deal with. Right. Should we carry on?
All righty. So here's a very important question from Raf. In Rust we trust. Simon, where'd you get Ferris?
Ah, you know my little Ferris mascot. This was a custom-made one on Etsy because there's no official place you can get them, and it was way too expensive. But you can't get them anywhere. So I was actually tempted to make my own. There's a couple of websites out there that have released the what they called the patterns for the different faces, and then you can then obviously just buy the material and the wadding, and if you got a sewing machine, away you go. But that sounded like effort that I wasn't interested in, and I thought I'll pay someone to do that effort for me. So that's why you buy an Etsy one. It was really nice. Yeah, you get this one was like £20, so it's not £20, something like that. And then there was a larger one for it was like £80 or something. So I was like, yeah, I don't need a massive one.
So quite the collection.
I think that the Great Dash shortage is well understood in the community. And my partner has a business that involves knit and crochet. And so I don't want to promise this, but she is potentially going to create a Dash crochet pattern that we could then open source to the community so that anyone who wants a Dash could just make their own. So... Ooh. Fingers crossed.
It's like you get a Dash, you get a Dash, you get a
Dash. Yeah. You just download it off of GitHub, and it's like a 3D printer, but with your hands, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, we have another question. How can I disable all buttons or user interactions in my Flutter app similar to kiosk mode?
I'll tell you how I
do it. Cheat.
Hey, a minute. How can I disable all buttons or user interactions in my Flutter app similar to kiosk mode? Are you trying to do it in the app? What do you actually mean? Like, how do you do that overall inside your...
So what I would do, I would create a Riverpod provider that...
You guys are overcomplicating this so much. You really are.
Okay.
Use a stack, put something transparent on the top that they can't click through. Done.
Yeah, and that stack, that transparent thing on top of the stack would listen to a Riverpod provider.
It could get state from there about whether it's being transparent or not. Yes.
Shoot me now, everyone. Shoot me now.
Yeah, I mean that's how I would cheat it. I would put everything in a stack and stick something on top of it that can be seen through but can't be clicked through.
You do not need to do that.
There's an overlay layer.
Show me a simple
way. There's already that thing. It's called an overlay. You just push around, and then you just need to make sure it's got a gesture detector with opaque as the hit test thing. Hit test behavior.
And that's what modals do when it wants to tell if you've clicked outside the modal.
Yeah.
It's basically has a giant transparent screen cover.
You could also, I mean, there are some better ways. And that is, you could just wrap your entire app and ignore pointer. That'd also work. The ignore pointer widget literally has a flag on it, ignoring, and it will. The whole rest of the subtree gets ignored, right? Or is it absorb? There's an ignore pointer, and absorb pointer.
Ralph says absorb.
Yeah, one of the two. Yeah, depends on. Ignore, I think, would ignore on the subtree. Absorb. You know what? Go read the docs.
Yes. Use Google.
Or just use
Google. Yeah. Use the stack.
Or just use a stack.
Use the stack, Luke.
Yes. All right.
The stack is
Yes.
strong in this one.
HTTP library has recently added a boardable request.
Yeah.
Is there any way to use this in the DO library, or do I have to wait until they implement this as well?
Well, you can add adapters to DO, and you can access the raw request, right? If I remember rightly. So, yes. That's what I tell you. Have a look. I mean, DO's a very capable platform, so there should be no reason why you could not.
They'll probably eventually incorporate it, yeah. Or you could submit a PR. That might help.
Yeah. We have a gist. Back to my question earlier. Got it to work in Dartpad and made the gist here.
Cool.
Going to work in Dartpad. Oh. So for those that don't know, it's a really cool thing you can do. You can go to dartpad.dev/ and then that hash. And guess what happens?
You get a Dartpad with that.
You get the Dartpad, come on, you hit the run button, and it just works. And you can do it with any GitHub hash. Gist hash, sorry.
Yeah.
So what we got here? Yeah, so this is your share. Share.
Okay.
There you go. Oops.
Scrollable spaced column.
So what we got here? Amount. This is the amount of spacing. There we go. You got scaffold, column, slider, expanded. Yeah. So this is the scrollable spaced column. And that is a layout builder with single traffic, with crane short, min height set to that. Yeah. Column, space between with space, min spacing. Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. It's not working. Oh.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, number of items. Oh, there you are. Sorry, it's hard to see on the desktop, right? But cool.
Okay, and that's funny because I thought you meant dynamic size of items.
It is right. It's just that happens that each of the items is a container of height 200, right? So if there's 3, then there's an equal. So let me do 100 here, which would I could have done a hot reload. Don't. Yeah, so there's 100, so they're equally spaced. And if I add more, you see they get equally spaced. And then there's a point where it reaches the end of the scroll, and now it scrolls to get to see more. Anyway, yeah, there you go. Nice. Right, what are we doing?
Okay, this one does not have a queue, but I really think it could be good. What are your thoughts about using AI to generate Dart Flutter code?
No.
Rabbit hole time.
Come on.
Not on this show.
No,
on Monday's show.
Mondays is AI day. Mondays.
True.
Great.
We have an entire show about it.
I mean, let's be honest.
Yes.
If you want to do AI to generate file, do it. I don't know what what thoughts we'd have other than great.
Yep. Flutter Community AI Circle.
Yes.
We actually do have
FCAIC.
Was it Norbert who did the presentation at FlutterCon USA? Yep. Okay, yeah.
There's also showed on this very channel, Vibe Code Extremes. He did
generated an app in 40 minutes.
Yep, that whole presentation blew my mind and inspired me to go home and install Cursor, and I haven't touched it since. But I will. I will.
I got Cursor, and so what I did with it was, on my way back from FlutterCon, I'm sitting there in the Delta Lounge, and I have about 3 hours. So it took me about 2 hours to write an entire expense tracking app, just using Cursor while I was sitting there in the Delta Lounge. So,
and I do think it's going to be useful. A lot of the stuff that I do in my personal time is not stuff that is meant to ever see production. It's just prototyping because I like doing fun, silly things. I think Cursor is going to be perfect for that, for like rapidly prototyping. I think that's going to be huge.
I'll go ahead and I want to pitch tomorrow's show. So
I've been
sorry.
playing around with augment code, which I really like.
What is it?
I'll
Augment.
Hang on, augment.
There's so many new ones coming out all the time. Like I haven't heard of this one. Like but
this one I felt this one so far has been. I'll pop it in the chat. I'll pop it on the stream. There you go. Augment code. This one I've found so far is the best one. And what's really nice about this one is it supports VS Code and IntelliJ.
Cool.
And it does not
I'll go ahead.
Chat agent stuff. It does posted agents, and you can and it does like the inline suggestions and all the whole shebang.
I'll go ahead and pitch myself for the tomorrow's observable Flutter show. I'm actually on with Craig, and we're going to take the thing he did over 3 sessions of 2 hours, 2.5 hours each. He made this bunch of code, and I'm going to rebuild it entirely in 45 minutes, vibe coding it from scratch, just to show the difference. So if you want to watch that happen, tune in to Observable Flutter on the Flutter channel for YouTube. That'll be tomorrow.
Shall we carry on?
Yeah.
I mean, what is the best agent for IntelliJ? I wish I knew myself.
You just got rid of a question. Someone got rid of a question.
I'll put it back. There we go.
Okay. Sorry, one of the best. Well, the one I just said. That's the one I think. Augment code. I tried the IntelliJ one. That's built into IntelliJ and stuff, and I didn't find it that great, to be honest. It's good. It's good. Like some of it, but it's not.
Yeah, the JetBrains one has been real iffy for at least for Dart and Flutter code.
Yeah, I've never found. Well, I found like the Augment code one to be really good.
Cool.
Well, yeah.
Why doesn't the number pad on iOS show a done button by default in Flutter? And how can I add one to dismiss the keyboard?
Yes. So, there you go. So when you create a text field, you can give it the text action, and that is done. And that should adjust the keyboard to show done. There you go. For the most part, though, there's a lot of things that you don't get. Like with an Android keyboard, you get to dismiss it because of like some of the behaviors that are built into Android. On iOS, it's not necessarily the same. So there's actually on tap outside, and you can tell it to unfocus. So you can do stuff like that as well. You can also do a lot of apps use. There's a couple of packages for this. Keyboard action bar, I think it's called, or something like keyboard. iOS keyboard. There's a package. I know there is. Keyboard underscore actions. That's the one. Keyboard underscore actions is a package on Pub. Let me bring this up as well. And see if this comes up.
Sorry, keyboard what actions?
Keyboard underscore actions by Diego. And this adds that actions bar that you see above the keyboard with the done and change the controls, and you can put whatever you want in there. But it's that kind of notion that you can put a bar on the top of the input field and do something with that, which is another one which is quite popular and for iOS. Again, you can just have that enabled when it's iOS only, right? I think
every time I come on the show,
sorry?
I learn something. I feel like every time I come on or tune in, I learn something new. And I was not. We literally ran into this exact problem at work, and I think Hand implemented a solution, and we could have just pulled in Diego's package. That's great.
There is something that most people don't do when they're building apps, and that is, if you like, especially for Flutter, I think every time I build a Flutter app, I will wrap any text field and text form field with my own widgets, so that I can control how they're rendered and how they behave throughout the app for input. And I think that's same for like buttons and things like that. There's just certain things that you do within your app that you want a bit more control over without just having to go around to each one of your text fields and change the way the parameters it has, right? You want to be able to consolidate the behavior of text fields across to be the same across your application, right? And that's where like having like app text field or whatever widget makes more sense. And that's where you can do things like this behavior where, oh, if iOS, then wrap that text field with a keyword actions widget. So every text field gets the keyword actions on iOS, but not on Android, right? And stuff like that. All right. No more questions?
We are out of questions for the moment. So why don't we get on with some coding?
Yeah, let's do that. So there was a request earlier around the recycling stuff that we were trying to do. So we started off on doing some, it was, what was it called? It was, put it here. Share. Let's share. Bingo, bango, bongo. Just like that. Alakazam.
Wee. Yeah. Bouncing around the screen like it's one of those hoppy castles, bouncy castles.
So this was the original. I can't never say his name. I look at it and go, it's not Alios. It's Alois. Is it Alois? Alois Daniel? I can't even say his name. Anyway, he every time I see him at a conference, he's got to berate me now for not getting his name right. Anyway, so curious how you'd implement this. I'm struggling to find a mode based on vicinity for the two-way scrolling. So we were exploring how we might do this. So we created this widget called a stack canvas. And is based on this notion of, positioning items and then be able to scroll around that, right? And at the moment, these items are Eloise. I know that. Eloise. It's never going to stick. It's never going to stick. I'm telling you right now. I try, but anyway. So yeah. So what we ended up doing was we created this notion of having a stack item, and each item has a rectangle and a builder. And what we wanted to do, if I remember rightly, was so stack item we were using positioned.fromRect, which actually I don't think we need to use anymore. I think we're just using that for the parent data. Stack canvas controller. This controls our origin so we can move around. So whenever we move, we update the origin and that notifies the listeners and rebuilds the UI. Yep, so here we go. So our stack canvas has a gesture detector, which as we get an update on the pan, as the XY motion on the gesture detector, we take the delta and apply that to the origin. Since we're not doing any limits on here, like you can go infinitely move it around. There's no problem here at the moment. Obviously that change. Then we have a layout widget, and that is a multi-char render object, which uses a render which we create a render object called a render stack canvas. And this does the kind of our custom behavior of we're attaching to a scroll controller. And when it gets updated, we say the origin has changed and mark that it needs to be repainted. And then when this render object gets attached to true, start listing, and gets removed, we stop listing to the controller. So only when this render object is actually attached to the render tree does it listen to the controller. And then if we set a new controller and it was attached, then we obviously remove and add the new one. Remove the old one, add the new one. And finally, the actual meat is here, which is not actually it's not that complicated. That is when we get to ask what our parent data is, we use stack parent data, which is already built. That's the same one the system uses for a stack. And then, and all that does, that explains in previous shows, all that's doing is giving us these parameters for each child. Right, it literally just saved us writing this class, what you see right here in front of you, which is a class container box parent data with these fields. That's it. We really don't care about all the rest of this. We're not, it's just debugging, right? So, and then when we go to perform our layout, we get the children, we get the stack parent data, we create the constraints based on the width and the height, lay out the child, the particular child, whichever one it is, 1, 2, 3, 4 in this case. And then we set the offset or the display position based on the left top of the rectangle that's been requested. And then we set our size of our layout to be the biggest size that's been given as constraints. and we have apply the default hit testing and painting. So this is about as basic as you can get, but this allows us to do this, which is lay out widgets as if it's a stack, and then and be able to move it around freely, right? So what we kind of want to do is, let's say I scroll this way, child 4 here, the green one, the right side, when that goes off screen, we would want it to just not exist, right? And then as it is required to come on screen, that widget is built and then reused as we move around the screen. That would be the ideal situation. So the idea here being that you could imagine this being an infinite canvas with lots of objects. What we don't want to be doing is having to render and create all those widgets to only not have most of them being rendered or in view. That's kind of what it comes down to. So this is, it sounds simple, maybe, but it's definitely not. So we're gonna see.
Does this sound like a job for off stage?
No. So it's not a bad idea, to be honest. But no. The problem is it wouldn't. So off stage is like true false. It's not, and you have to tell it when it's off stage, right? I think actually just, is it wrapping in a widget off stage? Do you know what? It's been a while since I looked at off stage. Let's have a look. I think you can just have a wrap in off stage. I don't think you can turn it off, can you? Oh no, you can. Off stage true. I mean, really, all this is doing is just, I don't think it's got render object. Lays out the child as if it was in the tree, but without painting anything. And without making the child visible for hit testing. So this doesn't actually do what we want, right? So it's nice, but it also doesn't do what we want, right? So this is all this is doing in here is saying still lay it out as if the child was there, but don't allow hit testing if it's marked as off stage, and don't paint the child if it's off stage, right? It returns.
So we would save some resources by not painting, but it would be nice to not lay it out.
Well, the problem here is we don't run on build. So if you've got 10,000 objects, we don't want to do anything with them unless they're gonna be visible, right? Like even building them, man, imagine how complicated maybe some of these widgets could be. They're not just boxes; they're like multiple widgets, right? Suddenly, that's a lot of memory you're utilizing for something that you're not actually using. So, essentially what we're trying to do is what a layout builder does in a certain sense, right? Let's go look at layout builder. So layout builder has a multiple set of layers to it. So we're gonna break this one down. So we've got a constrained layout builder as a base, and that. So this is so it can be reused for both the sliver variant and the non-sliver variant, I would guess. And we have a render object element and the layout builder element. So the idea being that, where has this been used? There it is. So abstract layout builder. Oh, was at the base of that? Oh, it was. Yeah. So constrained layout builder is an abstract layout builder. Abstract layout builder has a custom element. That's what I was talking about the other week. Interesting enough, updates should rebuild always, right? So just be wary, as I said to you before, when you're worrying about layout builder. But in the element here, there's the bit that we actually care about, which is when it where is it? We've got build a scope, so it creates its own build scope, and so rebuild with constraint. So when this element gets mounted, we essentially put it in this slot, creates the render object as it says here. This is the parent mount, right? Create render object, and attaches the render object to that slot in the element, and then rebuild with constraints. And this is the magical function. So where is this? Is in layout builder. Layout,
Guys, I
info
have to
type.
hop off. I'm getting pulled away for a work thing, but good talking with you guys. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah, no, it's nice to see you.
Yeah.
Nice seeing you. Yeah, bye.
Oh, good to see you, Matt.
Thanks for coming on. Be sure you
Free's
bring
got a
your
point here.
head mounted thing. Yes.
So when
Yeah, Free's got a point.
you can use it offstage to get their size asynchronously, not every build, store that state, and then use the action. And use that to actually. I mean, the offstage itself is not actually giving us anything. Like nothing we can't do with our current render object that we already have, right? We just don't paint it, right? Don't paint that child, right? It's not really that. The point here is we don't want to call the builder method, right? So this is where the builder, this actual builder function of layout builder, right? So what this is, update child callback calls that layout builder, gets the built widget, and if there's an error, makes an error widget, and then calls update widget with that. Now, update widget, I think, is part of the base framework, if I remember rightly. I don't know what class we. I don't know what class we're in. I normally have that visible. Anyway. Yeah. We're trying to push this right down, right? So update child. So the element, the new widget that's meant for that, and then the slot it's in. New slot. Okay. That's interesting. I don't know why this isn't using slot. All right. Well, we're gonna have a play around here. So we kind of want to do something similar to this. Now, I did actually have some reference here. So give me 1 second. I did something like this before, and I can't share it, Eric, but I'm gonna load it up for a reference point. It was a while ago.
And we have a question.
Yeah. You want to read the question?
Yeah, well, I was waiting to make sure you're paying attention.
Yeah. Just.
How can my app announce a message from a notification payload on iOS and Android when the phone is locked and the app is in the background, like RaceJoy does?
With great difficulty. So what I mean, essentially, I don't know what RaceJoy is, so I'm sure, but great. When I was in when the phone is locked, the app is in the background. How can my app announce a message? Explain to me what you mean by announce a message. Do you mean read the message off? Like the text of the message that's been received, or do you mean something else? But to be honest, like your application, when it receives a push notification, you get to run code and run whatever code you want. You get a certain duration and amount of processing. Think of it a bit more like that you can do, and that's considered the background service at that point. So what you're probably looking for is Flutter. I think it's called Flutter Background Service is the package. And that should allow you to create a background service with the audio type. I'm assuming you mean by announce a message, you mean read the audio of it, and then you can run some code in that background service that plays the audio. And it's kind of that simple, really. There's different restrictions on iOS and Android, and you're going to have to really hunt down those. On Android, background service should be fine. You get, I think, it's like 10 seconds from a push notification, like launch and another service, and that service, as long as it's showing a notification to the user, can continue. On iOS, you need to enable the background modes, and there's probably one for audio you probably need to enable. But yeah, yeah, you can do it. You might find that it's probably easier to do some native code for these two things, and then just have the feature turn it on and off based on like a setting that's stored or something. And again, I don't know the specifics of what you're building, so having like, you know, a Flutter background service and like the Dart environment in there, a bunch of other stuff can just add more complexity than you actually need in the most simple use cases. So yeah, there you go then.
Is that next comment a follow-up to the previous question? Yeah, it is. So here, I want it to read aloud like TTS, but the app may be in the background. I'd love to play an audio received via notification payload URL. May or may not be if TTS might be the solution.
TTS or not doesn't really make any difference, right? So TTS is just text to speech for those that don't know what it stands for. And all you're doing there is you're essentially saying, asking the system, convert this text to some amount of audio data, and that audio data, play that back. So, and the fact that you're going to like download that data and play that back, again, you just need to, again, on iOS, downloading stuff on the internet from a background application. Again, that's, there's like, it's called background URL or something like that. Background, blimey.
Background fetch or something? Is it fetch?
Background fetch. That seems something like that. Yeah, background fetch. I think it's called. Yeah. Yeah, background fetch.
Ah. Even my old creepy brain remembers things. Nice.
The background tasks as well. So again, you need to make sure that you got that mode turned on and understand the limitations of what you can and can't do at certain times. So you may need, like when you get the push notification, then you immediately fetch that content, and then you can then perform your other behaviors. But yeah, it was. I remember the early days of both mobile platforms. It was free for all. You could do whatever the hell you wanted, and then they started locking it down once like people were reporting they're getting annoyed by certain apps' behaviors, and it's a bit chaotic. So
it also gives the illusion that the batteries are lasting longer and longer. It's only because you just can't do so much in the background anymore.
Yeah. Well, iOS it's actually kind of interesting because iOS and Android are coming out from two different directions. Android came out with you can do whatever the hell you want. iOS came out, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And then what's happened is iOS have been saying, oh, you can do more and more in the background over time. And Android saying you can do less and less in the background over time until they've kind of met and kind of aligned in the middle.
Cool.
Right. Any more questions, or we just crack on?
There's one more. Oh, Scott's muted. What do you know? We had to.
Yes, I was muted. I was muted. Okay, how to make a WebView more secure for mobile apps while using it for a payment gateway?
Stop using WebViews.
I mean, inherently a WebView is not secure for a payment gateway. That's why you don't use it for a payment gateway.
Yep.
There you go. Because I mean, that an app can be monitoring, can intercept it, can see what's going on, and can change JavaScript. It's like, is your video frozen, Scott? You're just like looking. Oh no.
He's frozen. He's not moving.
Yeah, pop-up browser, exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
You can't make it any more secure than it already is. Like, there's no like you can't go enable SSL. I mean, there's it doesn't quite work that way.
There's a follow-up to the previous one. Oh, sorry.
I'm driving.
I'm sorry.
The Flutter on Android supports services in the background like Android Kotlin.
So let me, Brian, let me be clear. Anything you can do in iOS, you can do with Flutter. Anything with a Flutter app. Anything you do in Android, you can do with a Flutter. Anything you do with Windows, you can do with a Flutter app. Flutter just runs on top of those systems. So yes, is the answer to always these type of questions. Is you can do whatever the hell you want on top of the existing stuff, right? There you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Back to your scroller.
The real problem here comes in when people come into Flutter but don't have, they're coming as iOS developers, they don't have Android experience, and they're like, I want to do this thing on Android. How do I do it with Flutter? And the answer is, you do it with Android, right? It just so happens you're interfacing with your Flutter app, right? And I think that's the problem. I think comes in where people think, oh, because Flutter's multi-platform, it just does everything on every platform for you. No, it doesn't. Right? It's code works on multiple platforms. It gives you the ability to do stuff on multiple platforms, but it doesn't magically do everything for you on every platform. Now, there's plugins and plugins that do certain things for you, but you still need to understand those concepts, and you still need to work within the bounds of those operating systems constraints, right? So there may be features of your app that work on Android but don't work on iOS, or work on iOS but not on Android, right? Or desktop or Linux or whatever, right? So, for example, there's features that you would have on a mobile app in Android and iOS that you cannot do on a web app, for example. And if you want your single code base to work on all of it, well, then you're going to have code paths within your product which say, oh, if I'm web, then do this. If I'm an Android, do that, and so on. There's a follow-up here. You know, like the service class that allows to do things in background. Yeah, I mean, you just use the same thing. So there's a package.
Yeah, that's why I didn't post the follow-up, because I figured you would just explain that.
Yeah, but there's a what do I call it? Flutter background service. So there's a package on there's a package on Pub. Let me bring it up here. There's a few of these
already. Yeah.
Let me see if I can share. Oops, I've now broken it. Great. Background, yes. Flutter background service, and yeah, this is the same thing, right? So you say, I'm going to add the foreground service or typed permissions, read the documentation for that, blah 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 blah. Add your service tag in like you would do normally, but you give it the path to the background service that the plugin does by default. And then initialize service, and there's a sort of a wrapper here around how you communicate with that service and configure it and set up the notification, all the rest of it, and integrate it with your app. Pardon me. But I mean, if you look at the source code, I mean, I think I would say look up on flutter.dev how you go about building a what do you call it? Plugin, because it's really good information to know if you're building an app to understand it. But here's the Flutter background service, and if we go into like packages, the Android implementation, so platform interface, you've got Android and iOS implementations, and the Android implementation, you'll find that there's background service.java, and there you go. There's his code for doing it. And the point here is, instead of having a more generic, what I was saying earlier is, instead of having like this generic thing like this, you can literally just in your Android folder of your Flutter app add a class in the Java or Kotlin side of things called whatever you want, like you would normally add a manual service, and have this just create the notification. You don't need to have it interacting with Flutter, right? Or interacting with your Dart code like this plugin does. It links the two things together, right? So so here you can see here it creates a background engine. If one does not that's destroyed, but Flutter background service plugin service pipe. There'll be a bit in here. I can't be bothered finding it right now, but where it creates the background engine, the Dart engine, and chucks, or Flutter engine, sorry, and then chucks the tells to start up the particular binary and bundle, blah blah blah. Flutter engine, background engine. There you go. It should be run service. Creates a Flutter engine, initializes the removes itself from the plugins, attach the service, get the Dart executor, and creates the two channels, sets them up so they can communicate in the background, and then executes the Dart entry point that's been specified, which which is the default bundle, and then it's executing his entry point in his package, basically called entry point. And that goes off and does whatever it needs to do on the Dart side to communicate over this method channel to get the service going and start everything up. So yeah, there you go.
Yay.
And yeah, you go look at the iOS side of it if you want as well. And yeah, sometimes you've got both options. That's what I'm saying.
So RaceJoy is you can send text messages where the receiving device can do TTS even if you're locked.
Yeah,
so,
great.
Okay. There's a new predictive back gesture on Android 16. Yep. Will it work on Flutter out of the box?
It already does. It's not on Android 16. It's been in Android since 14, but it's required. I think it's required now 16 or something. It's not. Predictive back has been. So there's actually a migration guide for old code. Actually, hang on. Yeah, I'll bring it up and pop it in the chat here. So Flutter originally was not compatible. This was a long time ago. They are to support Android 14's predictive back. There you go. And if you have some old code, then you need to change to pop scope instead of will pop scope. And there's a couple of other like flow changes that you can do, and it's explaining how it differs, the behavior differs basically. So the main, to be honest, the main difference is you tell the system if it's allowed to pop the screen. That way it knows it can't do the predictive back, rather than the previous one, which is you get told you're going back and then you get to deny the back request. So it's just the idea being that up front, it knows if it can go back or not. You're telling the operating system if you can go back on a screen before it has to request it from you, right? And that's just really the big change in the behavior of Android. Once you do that, actually, there is actually now I think it's in the, you have to have a look at the docs. There's a new register pop entry. Where was it? There's like an animation that you can like hook onto. Pop gesture in progress. User gesture in progress. Now, well, there is that, but no, there's actually like an animation buildery thing somewhere. I can't remember where it is. Anyway, and if you use that, then you can actually do things like animate as the predictive back gesture is taking place. But if you're interested, that's in the linked in the chat there.
All righty, next one. Which is better, Dart define or variables from an environment file?
Dart define. Moving on. It's that simple. So the environment inherently isn't bad, but the point here is if you're going to ship, you can't do that in an Android app because the file doesn't exist, right? Android apps don't have files, like they're not like a desktop app, right? Also, they're not protected. They're a file. Anyone can edit them and see them, right? Whereas at least the Dart define, they're compiled into your app, and then you can then like protect your app in other ways, right? So, can I just answer this one here? There's Mr. Q, but I will just take this. So what you're talking about is FFI. And you've always been able to do this, which is just calling out to the native platform directly from Dart without platform channels. And what they showed off was more about native assets and packaging apps and stuff, packaging things in your app and stuff. And you can do that as well. So the package you're looking for is on pub.dev, and it's called FFI Gen. FFI Gen is just part of a bunch of libraries. Let me see if I can find a web page to show you. There is a repo somewhere. Hang on. I know the name got changed recently. When I want it, I can't find it. I know, found it. Ignore me. So let me bring this up on stream, I guess. There we go. So FFI Gen is, so you've got like a package called FFI, which is just foreign function interface. This is how you interact with external code, basically, and it provides some of the base stuff for that. FFI Gen is quite nice. It now means you can take like C header files. So like this example.h, which might be this, and then you put this bit up in your pub spec, and then it will generate the bit of FFI code for like loading that library and interacting with those functions, and provide you a simple function in Dart that you call that actually calls the underlying native code, right? And this can be used to access only the operating system functions and everything else. And to do that, for example, on Android, that's called JNI, as Java Native Interface. So there's a JNI library, which is built on top of FFI, and this performs the Java piece, which is like using integers, maps, and lists from Java, which works with Kotlin, because Kotlin is a JVM language. There's layers of complexity. I do apologize. Anyway, and then you have JNI Gen, which actually takes Java code like this, as you can see here, Android tools, show toast, whatever it might be, and then you run it through the generator, and it generates the same like Dart code with the same like function, show toast, and this is actually essentially calling the same thing. So this is actually calling out to the Java code, the Java show toast function that's up here, right, to run that, for example. But you can, like, we just an example of your own code, but you can just call and let's say run on UI thread straight from your Dart code. You can call toast make text straight from your Dart code. There's no like, it's not limited to your own code, right? So that's kind of like where that comes from. But the whole set of what they've done is they created a Dart a native repo, which takes all of the other native stuff we've just spoken about, all those packages, and wraps them up into one repo. So then you've got all of like FFI Gen, JNI hooks, code assets, data assets. This is all. There's just Swift. There's also small. You can't see at the bottom screen there, but there's a Swift to Objective C, Swift Gen, and a bunch of other stuff. Which is all. This is all the kind of wrapper libraries around doing this stuff. And then there is a example kind of page here which shows you how you can follow this guide to, in this case, play audio, and showing you how to play audio straight from your Dart code. AV audio dynamic, blah blah blah, load a file, load a URL, play it. So maybe this is just like an example here of how you could do something like this, and it goes into a bit of the sort of Kotlin and JavaScript and how you do it. So I'll pop that in the chat because that's kind of like a nice tutorial kind of base for that. How does Pigeon?
Okay, and I think Raf just answered this one in chat.
Well, how Pigeon is just Pigeon itself is not actually. I'm not sure I'd say Pigeon would replace this eventually. This would replace Pigeon. I think the point here is that the idea is that you wouldn't need platform channels as much, right? Because you can call out to things easier directly. You've always been able to call out stuff directly, but it just makes it a lot easier when all the stuff is just inherently done for you, like automatically, or the boilerplate. So Pigeon itself just really just generates that interface between having functions on both sides that you can call, and it will just convert like the right parameters and the right objects and stuff like that. It's just all Pigeon is a code generator for platform channels, right? Would be the best example I guess I could give. Right.
Okay, we got another one. Why isn't there any package to deal with Apache Kafka? Because you haven't written it yet. Google is not responsible for writing packages. That's not the Flutter team's job. That's our job.
Yeah,
As
just be
internet
clear, we do not work for Flutter. We do not work for
Yeah.
Google.
Yes, we are not on the Flutter team. But yeah, packages come from you, not from the Flutter team.
So a new Dart
There's
Kafka client.
Kafka packages.
I mean, I'm literally Kafka equivalent in Flutter. Kafka client using Dart lang. I've literally just found it on pub. It's right there.
Yep. Kafka Dart, AWS Kafka API.
It's like, why is there not one? There are ones.
There's a bunch
I've not
of
seen the code quality of any of these, by the way, but this is the one I just picked out, the first one that came up. That looks pretty good. And then you go, work in progress, can we do this? Blah, blah, blah. Kafka BR. Get Kafka sessions, producer, consumer, fetcher, offset, master. This is pretty good as a all-round starting point.
Yep.
Go for it. Use it. There you go. Have fun. Go nuts. I mean, I think you need to be thinking about if you want something like this and it's not up to standard, then fork it, add stuff, whatever. We have to look at the license, but yeah, improve on it.
Cool.
Why Kafka are you sending thousands of messages? I mean, Kafka's fine.
It works.
Right.
Your pace.
Right. It's 18:25 now. I think we'll cut off questions, shall we? Let's do the code and some coding.
Well, we don't have any, so.
Good,
we'll cut off the 0 questions.
You can ask questions about the code, but maybe we'll get to that, and then I don't want to run over on time. We're trying to keep things straightforward, and this is a complicated one. So I'm going to get a little bit further than us just talking about the problem right now. So where was I? Right. So we have a layout builder element. So the key thing here is the element is the actual object that's rebuilding it. Scheduled layout callback needs build true. Removes the callback. This has the update child callback function. Build script callback. This just seems like this wasn't the way I was doing things before. I'm like, let's have a look and see if I'm imagining things. Yeah. You go to render object. Huh. Okay, so they've actually made this more complicated. There's obviously reasons why they did this. I'm wondering if the old mechanism that I've been used before is still in play. So that's, I guess, let's go. So this is what I'm interested in. Whether or not this is a great idea, I'm just debating it now. A mix of managing render object with the layout callback, which can be invoked during the render object's layout process if scheduled using scheduled layout callback. Layout callback is typically callback that mutates the render object subtree during the render object's layout process. When the ancestor render object chooses to skip laying out this render object in perform layout implementation, for example, for performance reasons, an overlay must skip laying out off stage. Normally, layout callback will not be invoked because the layout method will not be called. This is undesirable when layout callback involves rebuilding dirty widgets. Most notes. Most open layout builder widget. Unlike render subtrees, typically all dirty widgets, even off-screen ones in a widget tree, must be rebuilt. This mixing makes sure once scheduled, the layout callback method will be invoked, even if it's skipped by an ancestor render object. So call run layout callback in perform layout. And then we have a render mixing. Did I miss that? Render abstract layout builder mixin. Oh, it is here. Oh, there it is there. Okay. So they're using this as part of it. So here's our callback. And the idea being that schedule callback schedules it. And once this callback comes in, it calls that function of the element. Then what happens? So essentially what's happening here is let's get this right, just so people understand. So there's 3 phases, right? So we have build, that builds the widget tree. Then the widgets get converted into elements, right? And those elements then build the render objects. That's the thing. So you have 3 separate trees. We have the widget tree, the element tree, and the render tree. The idea for this is that the widgets are the configuration essentially for the rest of it. So we just define what you want on the screen. They are not what is actually on the screen. What is actually on the screen is a combination of element and render object. Element is control. Render object is what you see, right? So what happens in this case, and remember what we're trying to do, as we're laying out those widgets, we determine which ones we actually need. Then based on which ones we actually need, we need to ask them to make sure that they're built, right? Once we know that they're built, then we can then go and lay those widgets out and paint them, right? So what we're actually doing here is layout takes place of our parent widget. It then goes over to the element and asks the element which of its child widgets should be being rendered. So if we're back in here, was it up here? Yeah, layout builder element, right? And this is the bit that's actually got the build scope and essentially runs build. So it actually calls the callback. Where is it? Where does it set the callback here? Underscore callback is what I'm looking for. Nope, it's not that one. Oh, hey a minute. It says it's a null directly without calling the render object. When you've got update callback, I guess. All right. So when mount is called, it calls update callback, and when update, that means the widget changed. So you get the new and old widget, just like the did update widget in a state object gets called. It calls update callback. And what this is doing is basically putting this rebuild with constraints as that callback that needs to take place during layout. And then when that function runs, that is actually calling owner build scope with this callback function above, which actually does the build, calls the builder, and calls update child. So it's kind of complicated. I know it is. It seems really complicated. When it comes down to it, it's actually quite simple. There's a lot of moving pieces in this example because it's doing a specific purpose. We can simplify, which is hopefully what we're going to do. So I think what would be great, is if we can, at the moment, our example of layout builder doing this is doing build callback only for one widget, right? For one builder. And we've got multiple. I'm trying to think if there's an example of this actually in the framework already. I don't think there is. So this would be interesting. All right, well, let's crack on. Right. So we have our controller. What we don't have, we're using multi-child render object right now. So what we're effectively doing right now. I'm gonna turn that off. I don't know how to turn that off. Crap. All right. Well, we can stay on. Yeah, sorry. What we're doing with right now is the fact that we're using multi-child render object widget, right? And what this is doing under the hood is providing us an element, right? So here you can see multi-child object element. And what this element is doing is basically linking up the render object to our children that are being passed in. So see the super.children? That gets passed to the element, right? So here it is in the widget configuration. And then if we go, that's the variable that holds the list, right? Then when the element loads up, look what it gets given. Super.widget, which this widget contains the children. And then this is the children, the actual elements that it's remembered, and the ones that forgot. This is about how it rebuilds. We won't go there right now. And then when it gets asked to be mounted, what it's doing here is it goes through the list of children from the widget and then inflates those widgets, effectively calling their build methods, right? And then attaching them into slots and then updating its cached set of children, basically. Then obviously update is confirming if these widget children should be updated. They're the two main things. And what happens is when a widget gets when a new element gets added to this one attached, which happens during inflate, if I remember rightly. Let's have a quick look. It's been a while. There's lots of debugging in here. Just this looks a lot more complicated than it actually is, right? So where is it? Activate, inactivate, update child, create element. There's the new element. There's a new thing, and you see new child mount this, right? And that's the bit that actually puts it into the tree mount. And if we find out whether it is eventually, it says attach notification. I won't find at the time. This is actually put it in the slide. Parent does not equal null. Anyway, I'm not going to go digging down too far into this, but the point here being, if I go back, actually, there is a bit here I actually want, but back to where we're not going too far down to the hierarchy. What I care about is actually these ones. So you got forgot child, which gets called when an element is removed from its parent. Visit children is so it can just process all the children, right? And these three here. Sorry?
I have an observation.
Well,
this does not conform to the Dart docs guidelines.
Of what?
There are no, these are public methods that are not documented.
They are documented. Can you not see the documentation? Let me be clear. Override. This is the interface describes them, right? Right. So these are all described in their parent, basically. Hang on, wait. It'd be nice if I can just go to that, wouldn't it? So if I go into in here, where is it? There you go. Move a given child from a given slot to a new slot. Blah 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 blah. The actual element, the way. But wait, if anyone's interested in what we're I kind of skipped over this. The one thing that you want to look at in Flutter is render object or render box and element class. The documentation on these two together provides you everything you need to know and understand about how these trees work. Where is it? The one time I want render object element. Where is it? Element and render object. Yeah, no, I'm sure it is. And then so build con. By the way, if you want to know you know when you have a build context in a build function, that is actually the element. The actual element in the element tree is your build context. Just to be clear, is the thing that implements that interface. Let's do search for render object. I think this is actually one of these has got like hit testing. Yeah, so this goes through quite a bit. That's not all of it. Is it render box then? There's a few of these that have got like, yeah, render box. There you go. That's the one you want to look at. A lot of documentation attached to it. But yeah, anyway, what the hell was I doing? Yeah, so as you can see here, insert, render object child, move, remove. These three are the required things you need to implement a render object element, to be clear. So this is a element that has a render object. Is multi-child render object widget maybe actually saying that? Let's have a quick look. Up and up and up and up and up. Again, there's lots of debugging stuff in here. Render object element is render object element. Yeah. So this is a render object. Sorry, this is an element that has an attached render object. It links the two trees together. And I think this actually has that documentation. It says, oops. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it just says C element basically. But yeah, so you get like pretty much everything in the trees are either a leaf, have a single child, or have multiple children. That's like everything in all the trees. So you have pretty much you have a leaf render object, single child, multi-child. We also have multi-child widget, single child widget. I think there's a leaf widget as well. So there's like these three patterns are replaced everywhere, when leaf being like the end point of a tree has one single child along the branch and multiple branches from it, right? Anyway, I've completely got off topic now from what I actually wanted to do. I mean, oh, it's slots. Here we go. This is what I was actually. This is really helpful. Write a render object subclass. So we fall into the category of a multi-child render object element. So we may go look at that in a second. Specialize in the getters. So you just override as whatever. Yeah. Slots. So each child element corresponds to a render object, which should be attached to its element's render object as a child. That's good. However, the immediate children of an element may not be ones that eventually produce the actual render. Maybe not be the ones that produce the actual render object they correspond to. For example, a stateless element or a stateful corresponds to whatever render object is the child of the element that returns from the build method. Yeah. Each child therefore is assigned a slot token. This is this identifier whose meaning is private to the render object element node. Where the descendants finally produce a render object and ready to attach it to this node's render object, it's passed into the slot back to the node and allows it to cheaply identify where to put the render object relative to the others in the parent. A child slot is determined when the parent calls update child to inflate a child to the next, or can be called by update slot for child. Early in the lifecycle, an element of framework calls mount method. That's what we just looked at. This method should call update child for each of its children, passing the widget for that child and the slot for that child, thus obtaining a list of child elements. Yeah. So that's what we're doing. So what we're doing essentially is called the builder that gives us a widget, and then we call update child with that widget to get the elements, and then we're attaching those elements to a slot. Does that make any sense to anyone? Probably way too more complicated right now. I don't want to be talking about all the words for this. I just want to give. This is me also getting a refresher on this as well, and then we can go like maybe spend a few minutes implementing something. Where possible, other methods should attempt to map the elements from the last pass of the widgets to the new pass. For example, if one of the elements from the last pass was configured for a particular key, in one of the widgets, new pass should have that same key. Yeah. the update children method may be good in this regard. So there's a built-in old children, new widgets, forgotten children slots, and then it will match them up. Slot for new index, previous child, index slot. Attempts to diff the new child list, new widgets, with the old list, old children, and produce a new list of elements to be of new child elements of this element, and call this method expected to update the render object accordingly. Tries to optimize for old list. If the old list is empty, the list is identical. Insertion removal. Blah blah blah. So this does essentially the walk and the comparison and all that complexity. This stuff we don't want to do, right? Like we don't want to, like, in terms of we don't want to have to manually write all this crap, right? Essentially, each time we update, we want to know what elements. This is a good question, actually, saying that. Do we just want to have slot and elements for what is visible on the screen? Now, equally, we would want to increase the let's go back to our little example here.
We've gone down the rabbit hole far enough that our viewers can't remember what it is that we're building.
Yeah,
so they could be good review.
Anyway, so the point here is what we're trying to do is create something that only creates the widgets, so only builds the widgets required to render the screen, right? This is almost sliver territory, but it's actually even more.
We have a winner.
Yeah. Infinite canvas with dynamic render for visible items only. There you go. I've lost the slot. Oh, Callan, man. Oh, that's dad joke right there. So, all right. So let's take a step back, right? Let's take a step back. The key of what we're trying to do, right, is that bottom window, right? When those widgets when we render our parent, which is the window, let's say that whole area with nothing inside it, right? Sorry, look, that's great. Anyway, so
I've been with Simon in Zoom for 7 years, and I still feel that way. Badly.
So let's be clear, right? So the outside parent. So imagine that bottom screen is just white, right? There's no children yet. That's the area we've got to work with. Then we need to go through that the list of potential widgets, right? So let's go back to our screen. Let's go back. We're going to play through this step by step, and then we'll work out what we need to change to achieve that goal, right? And we'll actually write out a list, and then we can proceed through it, right? So right now, the way this works in our widget is we get a stack canvas, and every widget, if we had 100 widgets, we still need to create a stack item, right? Because we need to understand what is the bounds for that widget. Now, what we could do, and this is one level deeper, is essentially create a builder callback, which returns back the stack items that would be overlapped on the screen, right? But that's not required. That's a nice performance game, but it's not required for this, right? What we care about is these inside builder functions. The idea being that these demo items, this whole subtree of what a demo item is, could be really big, right? Really complicated. So we don't want to build. We don't want to build these widgets and their associated elements and render objects when they're not going to be visible on the screen, right? So this means that this infinite canvas could have thousands and thousands of widgets, really complex widgets, but none of them are actually getting built or rendered until we pan to them. Now, this panable region of the screen that you see here, the window, imagine that it's larger by 2 times. That's our cache area. And what we essentially do is anything that enters that bounds, then we start building it. So before it even gets visible on screen, we've actually had it built. That's ideally what we want eventually, right? But that's just, again, a performance enhancement. We need to get the functionality working, and then we can add that to it. So right now, we need our widget to look through each of the stack items and look at its rect and work out, should it be overlap on the screen? And if it is, then it should build and render the subtree, right? The complexity comes in that portion of it, right? The portion which is, okay, we need to dynamically build our widgets during the layout phase, which is something that is a complex behavior, right? So, all right. Anyway, let's we can do step 1 now. We're not, again, I really want more time. Right. Okay.
We've got
so
about 10 minutes, I think.
Well, I know, that's what I'm trying to say. So I think, like, let's aim for what we can. Let's make a list of what we need to do, and then we're not going to be destined to repeat ourselves next time, right? So, to-do list. There you go. To-do list. It's always making to-do list, right? There you go. So our to-do list is going to be 1. Ensure stack canvas. I don't know what we're calling it. Stack canvas layout. Yeah. Only renders the children that are visible. This is I don't want the rest of it. Anyway. We need to make stack canvas out, dynamically build the children as they interview. Sounds good. We need a custom element. Yep. What AI? It's
starting to look like
earlier. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Someone asked what AI is that? It's augment code. Popped it in the chat. It works for IntelliJ.
And this is in IntelliJ?
Yep.
This.
And it has like the chat thing you can do and all that kind of stuff, right? So you can create a new chat. You have threads. You can do agents and attach files and edit files and all that kind of fun stuff. So
yeah, it's one of the better ones.
Sorry, one more time. What was the name of that?
It's in the chat. Augment code. Right. I said it's brilliant, and it repeats the same thing 4 times over that. There you go. Anyway. Right. I think we'll do step 1 right now, and then we can do custom elements and dynamically building another time, because they're not going to have time right now. Sorry. We're desperate to get to this, I know, but we are where we are. So I think
45 minutes of planning, 5 minutes of implementation. That sounds about right.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I think this is the thing that's overstated, right? Which is, don't be afraid to delete your code. Don't be afraid to refactor your code. Don't be afraid to mess up your code, right? You have version control for a reason, right? So plan, hack away, do everything. If you don't understand it, try some things out, do some demos, whatever you need to do, and then throw it all away and do it right. Yeah. The key here is you learn everything you need to do in all those steps of reading the documentation, doing the demos or hacks or whatever you need to do to actually deliver it. But the key is, don't just take that hack to everything and then use it. Right? Take all your learning and go, okay, if I'm going to do this, knowing now what I now know, this is the way I'm going to build it. right? But anyway, right. So we know the offset, right? Where is it? We have our origin offset here. So we should be able to build a rectangle close, but no cigar. I love the way it's like overlaps, like it's just invented something that doesn't exist. Right, anyway. Final viewport. So actually we can do it from controller origin and constraint to biggest. Nice. Ooh. It's inventing stuff, I see. Right. So then the visible children. So it's kind of interesting. We actually only want to we only want to you always have to lay out. I think you always have to, if I remember right, you always have to lay out every child. I'm trying to remember now. Yeah, because it has to, if it's connected to the render if it's render object that's connected to the render object tree, it has to be laid out during the layout pass. Yeah, there you go. Should be all this children unconditionally. If it's layout method responsible for implementation here, the early children does. Yeah. So basically, cut long story short, we want this, but not in this section. So this is correct. This lays them out, but it's the rendering side of things, right? So let's carry on with that. So default paint, this is just going to loop around each of those children and call context paint child with the offset from the parent data. So that's all we're going to do, but we're only going to paint things that we need to paint. So we're going to go through, got this visible children. So for final child in visible children, we then want to get the child's parent data, which is stack parent data. We're doing this kind of thing here, as you can see. That's interesting. Is it nullable? Yes. But I cast it as not nullable. Okay. Let's see. Parent data. And then we're taking the offset, applying our default offset, and then so this is our origin actually now. So let's go viewport is done at this position. This way we don't have to apply offset again. We've already applied it. Well, no, we can do something slightly different there. Anyway, yeah, be here. Right. So get rid of that. Now the overlaps portion. So look at this. What is rect trying to get us? Top, bottom. See, this is nice when you have right and bottom, but we don't have it. So we want to do. We actually don't care about it's the where it's been positioned, which is offset. And the child size. So this is actually where it's laid out size, right? And it's positioned from layout. So this is the result of layout. All right, so that's our rectangle. By the way, this is a shortcut. So the ampersand can be used between a offset and a size to make a rectangle. So it's the shorthand for making a rectangle, if you're curious what that's all about. Yep. And look, now we get overlaps.
Yay, overlap.
Cool. So this is now going to give us our visible children. We go through our visible children and we want to paint them. Is that magically it? I mean, it's still working, which is nice. I think what we need to do is if we reduce our viewport rectangle on purpose, we should see things disappear before they get to the edge. So the way you do that is you inflate with a negative value. That's how you do deflate, by the way, on a rectangle. So helpful, right? So let's do 50 and see what happens. Right. So, oh, interesting. So these numbers are not adding up right now. So we're going to work that one out. So I've done my calculations slightly wrong here with my offsets. Or have I? Hang on.
These are a way to fix that.
Right. It's to do with the domain that they're working in. So these all the widgets are being laid out in the content domain, not the viewport domain. The viewport is being moved. I need the coordinates. That's the annoying thing. And this should be correct. Hang on. In my inflate 50, hang on. Left minus delta. Oh, there's the deflate. Oh, they've added it. That's interesting. Yeah, you can do deflate 50 now. Let's do this. Let's do some debug painting, shall we? Context.canvas.draw rectangle viewport. So the viewport itself yeah, that's wrong, isn't it? Is it? Offset's got nothing to do with it. Hang on. Ooh, it's backwards.
Weird. Only painted if it goes off the edge.
Well, what we're expecting here, right, is you go left. It's almost inverted.
Yeah, that's what I keep saying. It's like it's only painting the ones that are outside, not inside. Maybe overlaps is the.
Why have I put viewport top left in there? That shouldn't be. Nah.
Now you're just shaking voodoo sticks to this.
Right.
Ooh.
That went out of view. That went out of view. That went out of view. There you go. It's working. Yay.
It was a negative.
I mathed it. Yep. Right. And then when it comes to the viewport, there's actually, it's not the same, but let me plot it on the screen here. We'll say it's offset 0 and constraints.biggest. Actually, a line should be size, shouldn't it? Why you no work? Oh, because it wants the rectangle here. And paint color. Let's do red. Yellow. Black. Something that's going to stand out. Oh, yeah, that'll do it. And then I don't want to fill it. I want a painting. What's it style? Yes. Thank you, AI. Now, so what I've done here is just put it around the edge. And now if I take this rectangle and we do our deflate, there you go. Right. So this imaginary box here
It's the edges of the actual screen.
is our imaginary edge of the widget, right? So the idea is that when it goes out of the view, it stops rendering. There you go.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Does that kind of make
Perfect.
sense to everyone now?
Ship it. Ship it.
There you go.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So,
Customers want now.
so now only one widget's ever going to get rendered at this point, right? Because it's on the screen. As soon as a widget requires to be drawn, they're getting rendered, right?
Yes.
So now we're not doing extra painting when we don't need to do it. In essence,
Yay.
right?
Save paint.
And if you notice, the key here is that all that logic is happening during the paint phase, right? So we're not having to require layout to do that, right? But what we actually want to do is we want to take this one step further. When that's, for example, if I move this down, sorry, let's move up. The red one, child 1, when that stops getting painted because it's outside the view, what we've now done, and let's be clear, is just stop painting it. We still have an element, and we still have called build. The entire subtree of elements and render objects still exist, right? They still exist. They've still been executed, and the code still exists. They're just not being painted to the screen, right? So this is a great first step, but that's the heavy bit. The painting normally is not too bad, right? The heavy bit is normally in the building and in the layout, right?
Is this close to then what a stack would do if you put a clipping path around it?
Yeah, it's essentially what clipping does, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So clipping is the sense that, well, if an entire widget is no longer in the view, then it's completely clipped and doesn't need to be rendered at all. But obviously, if it's partially in view, then what you're doing is you're then only painting the portion that's visible, which would be this bottom portion. So it's a bit slightly different, but in a sense, the same. Now, for those that are interested, check this out. I can now wrap this in debug. Not parent can use those. It's debug.
Paint. Debug paint. No.
No, it's size. Hang on, paint size enabled. That's the one. It's a magical flag. And what this flag lets us do is really cool. So, square box, black square box, not visible. Yes. And if I go into the inspector and I press the magical button that says "Show me borders," look what comes up. So when you tick this flag inside the IDE, it flips this flag in your code and calls paint. That is how debug paint works. So if you want to add your own special extra painting in your app to work out if things are working correctly, this is what you do. You wrap them in a debug paint size enabled, and then you can use this flag to turn it on and off, right? And you can see the other debug paint stuff that's come on from other widgets, right? So yeah, there you go. I want to make this something bright color. Let's do cyan again. Cyan accent.
Okay, and we are over time, and it looks like we've hit a good stopping point.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're stopping it. Don't worry. I just need to find the right color. Now, magenta. Let's have something that sticks out. Are you telling me we don't have a magenta like on the what? It's gonna be pink, isn't it? It's gonna be like
pink accent.
See, that's not the same as magenta. I'm unsatisfied.
It's red.
How dare they not?
This is where Simon will spend 3 hours trying to get the color just right.
Oh no, it's easy to get the color adjusted for this.
Just use a literal. Yeah. Make your own color if you can't find it.
There's magenta.
Dear Gemini, what is the ARGB for magenta?
Oh, that's easy.
Isn't it the same as pink?
Sorry?
Isn't it the same as pink?
No. All right. So yeah. So there you go. So I will. I think we'll keep this. We'll parameterize this. We're just going to parameterize. Well, at least put constant in for that 50. Const. Debug. What do we call it? Test clipping insert. Sure. Actually, I'm going to stick const to stick it at the top, just so it's clearly brought out as a flag for demonstration purposes. All right. Cool. I think that's it. Right. Let's well, not that this matters that much at the moment, but ideally this we would only be hit testing the visible children. What we could actually do, just not right now, and that is I would probably be extending stack parent data in this case, adding a flag saying visible, and then when we paint it, we set it to true or false, depending on if it's visible or not, if it's in the visible children list. And then inside hit testing, we can just see, is that flag set to true? Then we can hit test on it. Otherwise, we can't. Right. Anyway.
Nice.
Right. Let's do that. What's this?
Your question.
A question that came in way after questions were cut off.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. I mean, we don't make Anzami devices and doing that. You can turn on Wi-Fi debug. You can turn on Wi-Fi debugging. So debug, instead of USB debugging, you can debug over the air and pair that up to your computer over the Wi-Fi, which is probably solve your problem. Right, let me get this code in on the and post the link, and then we can do our shuffle and say goodbye. In today's episode, Stack Canvas Part 2, we'll call this, yeah? Fine.
Gemini, give me a title for this show.
Do you remember when everyone was doing the shouting out Google and give me this?
Yeah. It's
really popular for a time, wasn't it?
I usually have my phone facing down when I'm on a call because I don't want anybody to.
Oh, doesn't it do that when I don't use any of the?
Yeah. When the iPhones are face down, they don't respond to the command, the voice command.
I suppose it's configurable.
Yeah, there's settings for everything like that.
When it's Android, you can say do anything you want. Good luck with iOS.
You'll have, the wake word has to be one of like 2 or 3 words. You can't do anything flexible with iOS for like that.
I'm still I had an app idea once. Actually, I never finished it because some restrictions that came in place on Android stopped it from being possible. But I had this idea of making an app called Selfie. And the idea was just you'd hold your phone up and say selfie, and it'll take a picture. So you have to do the awkward thumb thing to try and take a picture.
Yeah.
Take a selfie, boom, and it does it. And what I wanted was just to keep, do the voice commands and have it do that. But I didn't want to have to make your own camera app. The idea was to make it on any camera app, right? So, like,
I wonder if you could just get Gemini to do it now.
Probably. You could probably. This was before assistance. Before any of this stuff. Right. This was when selfies first started happening. So this was a while ago.
That would be a while.
Links in the chat for anyone that wants the code. Help yourself. And we'll continue more.
Watch me tomorrow on Observable Flutter tomorrow.
Observable Flutter. Watch for Randall. See you all same time, same place next week. And Randall tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.